Hello everybody, welcome back to Shang-Chi Bricks. I'm Alex and today's finally the day that I can do my Spider-Man ranking video. I've been super excited about this ever since Brand New Day has come out, and I have recently watched Brand New Day for a second time, so I do know where it kind of places amongst this after the thoughts have fully kind of gone through my head. So I will preface this video because this video has a lot of hot takes. Now, I could have just made a Spider-Man hot take video, but that would basically just be repeating myself of everything I say in this video. Anyways, will say that personally, as a big Marvel fan, I've always liked Spider-Man, but Spider-Man has never been my all-time favorite character. When I was younger, I think I would always think of myself as more of an Avengers fan or a Guardians of the Galaxy fan over the Spider-Man movies. Nothing against the Spider-Man movies, it's just when I was first getting into Marvel, Spider-Man was never a character I instantly connected with. Although I do really enjoy the Spider-Man movies. I also will say that based off when I was born, Tom Holland makes the most sense as my kind of Spider-Man, because everyone definitely grew up with a different Spider-Person. So because of that, the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield movies are ranked a lot lower on this list. Just something to keep in mind, because Tom Holland is the Spider-Man I connected the most with, and I associate the most with my childhood. Now, one more thing, this video is only live-action Spider-Man movies, because on my Spider-Man list, which you can find in Letterboxd, and my written down thoughts, I'm just reading off basically the reviews I wrote for these movies. Into the Spider-Verse is number 1, and Across the Spider-Verse is number 2 out of all the Spider-Man movies, because I love those movies so much. Both of them are 5-star movies, in my opinion. And Into the Spider-Verse is on my 4 favorite movies on Letterboxd. So I won't be including those, so I have time to talk about the other Spider-Man movies, but let's get into this ranking because I'm really excited to get started. Starting off in last place, 9th place, is Spider-Man 3. This is the third Tobey Maguire movie, and like I said earlier, Tobey Maguire has never really been my favorite Spider-Man. I will definitely talk about it more in the other 2 movies, but overall, this movie just didn't work for me. It did feel very outdated watching it, and it didn't feel like it held up very well. The movie also has way too many villains, and although I liked all 3 of them, there were too many, and they weren't as fleshed out as they could have been. Now, there were different storylines, like the Venom storyline, which I think was a solid concept in a Spider-Man movie, because we haven't really seen that in any other movies, except I just feel like Tobey Maguire portrayed Spider-Man once he became the symbiote as such a complete jerk that it kind of just made the movie not as fun to watch when he's doing all these annoying things. Overall, this movie did have its funny moments, obviously. The most famous Bully Maguire moment where he's dancing down the street. And I think the way the movie ended was very nice. It never really has been my favorite Spider-Man movie, because I just think it isn't that fun to watch when you see Peter Parker be a complete jerk. And I don't know, it definitely does feel very overstuffed with all the villains, and I think if they just landed on one, like Sandman, because I really like Sandman as a character, I think the movie would have been a lot better. Next, in 8th place, is Spider-Man Far From Home. This one's the most frustrating to me because I really want to like it. Like I said before, Tom Holland is my favorite live-action Spider-Man, so obviously I do find this one entertaining, and there are a lot of great jokes, especially with him and Ned. MJ is great in this movie. There are a lot of really, really funny moments. It's just Mysterio has never worked for me. I haven't seen a lot of different things Jake Gyllenhaal is in, or Gyllenhaal, sorry if I mispronounced that. I'm sure he's a great actor, I don't think he was a great Mysterio, and I don't think the writing in this movie was good enough. This movie logically doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I just kind of think that Mysterio's motivations in general, especially with being far from the first lead villain to have an issue with Tony Stark, and the fact that the thing he's so annoyed by is Tony Stark calling his invention barf. Like, it just feels like almost like he's angry about a poop joke. Obviously, if I invented something like that and Tony Stark named it barf, I would be upset too. But I don't know, something about his goal and his motives just don't really work for me very well. I also think that basically because Disney has this partnership with Sony for the Spider-Man movies, a character from the MCU has to be in this movie. It has to be in all the Tom Holland movies. So because of that, I just don't think Nick Fury was integrated super well. And then especially because we saw how Secret Invasion turned out, I don't know. I just feel like Nick Fury was one of the ones I didn't care as much about when it came to MCU cameo. Tom Holland is great as always in this movie. It's just overall, this one isn't my favorite. Up in 7th place is The Amazing Spider-Man. This is the first Andrew Garfield movie, and they were definitely trying to differentiate this from the Tobey Maguire movies. I just think that first of all, the changes they made weren't super significant, and second of all, the changes they made were also kind of boring. Like, I didn't really need to hear that much about Peter Parker's parents, and where I definitely think there could have been an interesting route with that. I think the route they did take was kind of boring, and the more interesting aspects of it got explained in TASM 2. Now, I do think Andrew's take on Peter Parker is a little different, because in this movie, I feel like his redemption arc is a lot more interesting than Tobey Maguire's. I just think, as in general, I think this is arguably the most forgettable Spider-Man movie. I feel like nothing super memorable happens. The lizard's motives aren't that interesting, and to be honest, I don't think the lizard is that interesting in general. Lizard has never been my favorite Spider-Man villain, because I always thought that he didn't really do anything that interesting. He was kind of just a lizard. And now I do think that towards the beginning, it kind of feels like Andrew Garfield's just like a punk teenager. But then towards the end, I do think his redemption arc is quite nice. Overall, probably the least rewatchable and arguably the most boring, but it definitely isn't the most flawed. Next up is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is Andrew Garfield's second movie. Now, a lot of people really dislike this one, and I do understand why. The quality of it isn't the best, because there is a lot of stuff going on, and there are a lot of really random subplots. At the same time, though, I think a lot of stuff is really great. I think Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's chemistry is a lot better than it was in The Amazing Spider-Man. I think them as a couple together are really, really solid in this movie. I also think the action sequences are some of the best in any Spider-Man movie, and I'm saying that when there's a Spider-Man movie that the Shang-Chi fight team did the choreography for, and I think that this is just as good as some of the Shang-Chi fight scenes, which is just some of my favorite Marvel in any fight scenes in general. I genuinely think some of the battles with Electro are really amazing, and there's just some really awesome action sequences. The story itself, to me, wasn't the most messy until we get to the villains. I do think both Electro and Green Goblin were done really, really poorly. I think that Electro's motives were way too goofy and didn't really make any sense, and I do think Jamie Foxx is a really good actor. I just really didn't think his performance was all that great, especially when he was just Max Dillon, and he was kind of just an annoying guy who was obsessed with Spider-Man and wanted a birthday party. And then I also think that it was way too soon to have another Green Goblin, and even though Sony basically demanded Sony demanded the directors to try to start a Sinister Six plot line, I think that the villains are just one of my least favorite parts of the whole movie. I also just think that the character design for Green Goblin was really, really weird, and it did feel really, really forced to include him in this movie. Overall, this movie is flawed, but it does have some of the best moments in any Spider-Man movie. Next up is the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, the one from 2002. Now, this one, I completely understand why a lot of people like it. But first off, I wasn't born in 2002, so this wasn't my first superhero movie or my first Marvel or Spider-Man movie, unlike a lot of different people who have a lot of nostalgia towards it. I do think nostalgia definitely carries this movie, because watching it for the first time this year, it is definitely a little bit outdated. A lot of the dialogue's not great, and it is very, very corny. Now, I do think Tobey Maguire is a decent Spider-Man in this movie, but it's just the script really isn't great, and I feel like it needed to be a little more mature than what it actually was. Now, William Dafoe is amazing in this movie, and I think is still one of the greatest comic book villain performances of all time. But does feel very unbalanced to have William Dafoe Green Goblin with a script that sounds like maybe like a Disney Channel TV show. I do think that Peter Parker's arc in this movie is really good, and it has a lot of iconic moments, like most of the movies in the Raimi trilogy does. Is a movie that really isn't for me, and I think if you weren't born around this time period, this one's kind of just alright. Next up is the second Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 2 from 2004. Well, this one I did like better than the first one, because I do think that the arc that Peter Parker goes on is really good, and I like that they adapted the Spider-Man No More comic. I also think the script improves a lot in this one. I'm not sure if Doc Ock is as good of a villain. I do think maybe I need to rewatch this one again so I can pay more clearer attention, so I can really compare the villains of Doc Ock and Green Goblin, because I think that Alfred Molina is amazing in No Way Home. I just think that the movie itself is kind of similar in somewhat poor or outdated production quality than the first one, just because it is a movie from 2004 where they didn't have all the necessary special effects. I also feel like in some ways in this movie and in Spider-Man 3, Kristen Dunst as Mary Jane, some of her character decisions don't make a lot of sense to me. Like, I don't really understand why she keeps coming back to a guy that's making worse and worse decisions. And then also, the arc Peter Parker goes on in this movie goes on to... Overall, I like this one. I just don't like it as much as I wanted to, or as other people do. Next up is Spider-Man Homecoming, which is easily the most fun Spider-Man movie, and it's kind of the Spider-Man 3, sorry, not Spider-Man 3, it's kind of the Stranger Things 3 of Spider-Man movies. It's a lot of fun, the characters are super charming and great. It just may not have the all-time epic moments that the other ones do. When I was watching this movie, I'm not joking, I was smiling for most of the time. Tom Holland is really, really excellent in this role. And I think that there are some really solid Spider-Man moments. I also like that this movie, I think, does the best job showing Peter Parker as a high schooler. It's like the most recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie in 2023, where that one felt the most teenage in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think that Michael Keaton as Vulture is definitely a more underrated MCU villain. I think he is really solid. And maybe not the flashiest, but I do think he is a really good villain. I also think a lot of the jokes do, land very, very well for all the movies in the Tom Holland saga of Spider-Man movies. I think that Ned is also really, really funny in this movie, and I think one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man moments is this. Anyways, this is one that I think will always be a personal favorite of mine, because I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's the first live-action Spider-Man movie I watched all the way through. Overall, easily the most rewatchable Spider-Man movie, and it's overall just a ton of fun and a great introductory movie to the MCU. Next up in second place is everyone's favorite Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I have been lower on this movie than a lot of other people, and I definitely disagree with the fact that this is a top 5 MCU movie. I just honestly think that this one does rely a little too much on nostalgia and just introducing a lot of cameos and a lot of fun characters. Now, recently, when I kind of rewatched No Way Home, after seeing all the other Spider-Man movies, I still understand why people love this one. But once again, I wasn't watching Spider-Man movies back in 2014, because I was very, very young at the time and not watching Spider-Man movies. So I don't have the nostalgia, and I didn't feel all the nostalgic feels. And I also didn't see this in theaters, so I didn't have that big, great moment that a lot of other people had, but I still love this one a lot. It's very rewatchable. I think Tom Holland Spider-Man is really good in this one. I just think that it almost relies a little too heavy on nostalgia, where maybe the first half or the first third isn't top 10 MCU worthy, really, although it still has a lot of fun, has a lot of great moments, and is also very, very rewatchable. I'm just not sure if I like this one as much as everyone else. I also feel like a lot of the villain actors in particular are giving some of their best performances. I said earlier in this video that I don't think Electro was done very well in live action. I think Jamie Foxx redeems himself here because I think Electro is really cool in this movie. I do think that maybe this movie could have been a little bit longer in some ways so we could really see all these character interactions again, but also that's kind of the movie relying too heavy on nostalgia. And I'll also say, for all the people who think that nostalgia is necessary for this movie to help Peter go through his arc, I agree with that. I just think that this isn't as like a top 10 MCU movie, and I don't think it's like that amazing. But that's just me, and I know a lot of people will disagree with that. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now in first place, there may be a little bit of recency bias, but yes, I have Brand New Day as number 1. Now I know not everyone will agree with me, and I definitely do take recency bias into account. I do feel like I have to watch, especially these big movies, I do feel like I have to watch the movie again. I just feel like I have to watch the movie again just so I can fully process what I feel about the movie. But this movie was so much fun. I think it's a great balance of everything. Great from Homecoming and No Way Home. I think Tom Holland and Zendaya give some of their best performances I've ever seen them give. Yet I am yet to see the Odyssey of this recording. I think all the ensemble cast members were great as well. I do feel like some of them, after my first viewing, weren't super necessary, but at the same time, after watching it again, all of them are really fun. And if you really think about it, all of them do help out in some ways. Now, I do think when it comes to Sadie Sink's role, which this is a non-spoiler review, I do definitely think that Marvel could have said who she was before, and I think if you asked me before this movie came out whether or not I'd want Sadie Sink's said role to be in this movie, I probably would have said no, but after seeing the movie, I like the way they introduced her in here, because I like how Spider-Man really brings out the best in people. Similar to how I felt with the 2025 Superman movie from last year, I do like how these movies really show the best of the character and how they bring their cities together, and they really are just true heroes and just show what it means to be a good person. Although similarly to Superman 2025, my biggest flaw with that movie was the fact that on first viewing only, the first third of the movie feels a little bit slow. Now, after watching it again, I will agree what I agreed with the Superman 2025 movie, that I think after a rewatch, it doesn't feel very slow at all, because you kind of know where things are heading. Overall, a very, very good one, and I'm really excited to see what Justin Daniel Cretton does next. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, don't eat Frank's chili.